those who don't know and they're listening in and they may not be familiar with Kuyper, introduce Kuyper to us and why
Sure.
his thought is so important for us today.
Sure. So Abraham Kuyper, 1837 to 1920, lived in the Netherlands. That's where he was most of his life. He did travel a little bit, but he was a pastor who became a politician. When he became a politician, he stepped away from the pastoral role. He still participated in his denomination, but he did not function as a politician while also functioning as a pastor. He helped to found a political party, and he helped found in this organization that was really a political party and other things. They also helped create the Free University of Amsterdam in 1880, and he wrote a lot. He wrote for a weekly paper and a daily paper. He was a great organizer. And in 1901, 1905, he was prime minister of the Netherlands. And I think the reason he is helpful is because he helps us to think through a way of thinking about Christian participation in society without that participation being a way of thinking that I need to take over society, or that as a Christian, the way that I function in society is to turn other things that are not church into churches. In other words, turn educational spaces, business spaces, governmental spaces, etc. Turn those things into a church. They can be engaged by Christians, transformed by Christians, but they should not be turned into churches. I think that's a way of putting it.
Hmm.
And also, he gives us good theological language for why Christians should be participating in the public. And for me, it's very helpful. Now, it's important to say this because I gave this disclaimer in the book. You know why it's also good to know him? Because the more you spend time with him, the closer you get to understanding that he was great and greatly flawed. Why do I say that? This is really important. And maybe you've talked about this with other people, but I think a lot of times people get introduced to figures in ways that they're either good or bad. Read this person because they're awesome. Don't read that person because they're unhelpful, or they're wrong about a particular issue. Or if you do read them, read with a sense of being wary. The problem is when you talk about the figure who's bad, and then somebody decides to read this person and thinks there was more helpful here than I thought. Then what do you do with
Mm.
that? Or the flip side is you, maybe not intentionally, but you wind up making a figure like Kuyper or whoever, you wind up putting a messianic veneer on that character. And then that person, the closer you get to them, the more you see that they needed the Messiah.
Hmm.
You see ways that they have failings. And so you're getting set up if somebody says, please read this person. And you think, please read this person means, and nothing you will encounter will be problematic for you. Right? Well, good luck reading Luther. Right? I mean, good luck reading Kuyper. Good luck reading Karl Barth. And we can just keep going. Right? And my point is then that doesn't mean don't read them. It just means, why are you treating them like a Messiah? If they're a Christian, they're someone who's in the process of being transformed themselves. They may be tremendously gifted, tremendously helpful. Have tremendous gifting doesn't automatically make a person have complete sanctification. And so you will discover how they are not the more you spend time with them. And if we help people understand from the start, you shouldn't be expecting them to be a Messiah. Hopefully, there are a lot of things that are very exemplary about them, but at the very least, you're going to find out that they didn't do something or didn't say something, and it bothers you. Or they did do something and did say something, and you're trying, and then you've got to deal with it. That's called dealing with the human race. Only Jesus saves, not the figures that God has gifted that help us to think about how our faith better. And so I had to encounter that with Kuyper myself around race. I mean, it was not good. That's an understatement. So, um, but the fact is that uh, the question that I've had to ask, and I think people need to ask about any character, any figure, is when someone has some bad thing that they do. Karl Barth having this,
Mistress, yeah.
the Charlotte von Kirschbaum relationship, or Luther and the Jews, etc. The question you have to ask is, does this language, does whatever they're saying about this, is it running through everything that they do? And particularly the things that you find helpful, is it woven into those things? I think it's an important critical thinking question for anybody to ask about any figure. And my conclusion for Kuyper is that his doctrine of common grace, which I'm as we'll talk about momentarily, his doctrine of common grace, when he describes how it works out in history, that's problematic. The definition, I would argue, does not require his description of the unfolding of history, because it doesn't entail that.